Yo, what is up? What is up? This is a huge night for the draft community as today was the NBA Draft Lottery. And on today's show, we are going to talk about the results of the lottery. And my guest, or not even my guest, my co-host for today, I got the grinder and Leif Thulin, and I got the experience happy Magic Draft today and Richard Stayman. In this episode, like I said, we're going to talk about what went down on the lottery. Stay tuned. All right, shout out to each and every person that has made this NBA Big Board podcast a success. And guys, it is go time now. This is the time that everybody's going to be paying attention to the draft. Now we got the casual fans listening. So I'm excited. All right, let's just get right into this episode. With Orlando winning the lottery, what direction should they go in? We'll start with you, Mr. Magic Draft.
Magic Draft tonight, man. The Dubs are taking. No, I think we talked about it on the reaction show a little bit after the lottery had happened, and you brought up a really good point, which is that they're redundant. Like the number one pick actually doesn't, on paper, it doesn't actually fit them. I think the best thing for them now is getting the number one player in a decent draft. It's not bad. Getting number one pick in that gives them leverage now to be able to move on from some of those positions that they're redundant in. Say they take Chet Holmgren, they can now finally get off the Jonathan Isaac train because with all the injuries and everything else, they could have just the front court be Franz, Wendell Carter, and Chet Holmgren. And then once they move on from Isaac, it becomes a little bit easier too, I think, when you have a cornerstone guy, depending if Chet is the pick, it becomes easier to move on from some of the other guys in redundant positions, even like the guards. It trickles down almost.
Man, it's just a weird situation because I don't know if Chet is your number one, like your franchise changer. I don't know if Jabari Smith is your franchise changer, and I don't even know if you're going to get fair value for Jonathan Isaac. Is it just like a salary dump in a sense? So, what are your thoughts on this, Leif?
I think the Magic have an interesting dilemma at their hands. Yes, they have the keys. They start the draft and they can take their guy, whoever that may be. But you almost wonder if they'd have rather had the second pick, which seems ridiculous. But then you at least have someone eliminated and you can pick the best available without thinking, well, do we play fit or best available? And I think they're in this stage where they've kind of been in this rut of getting second pick with Victor Oladipo, fifth pick, Jalen Suggs, couple players like that where they haven't exactly panned out to what the level you want. You want a franchise altering talent. Is Chet Holmgren that guy who could alter your team, but he's not the guy you want all in the hands, face of the franchise in that same sense. Paolo Banchero could be. Jabari Smith could be. We discussed that I don't think Jabari Smith is that guy, that all NBA talent. Paolo Banchero could be, but redundancy makes you concerned. I think I would take Chet. I would take Paolo. I do believe the Magic will take Chet.
Yeah, I would take. I've been riding the Banchero bandwagon all season. I think that he has the best opportunity to be like a franchise-changing superstar on offense. There may be some concerns on defense, but I don't see them going in that direction. I think it's between Jabari and Chet. Who are you taking, Richard?
If it were me, my number one player is very different from you guys. I'm taking Jabari Smith. I think there's a void in shooting on that team, and you get an elite shooter and also the defensive identity they've built it with that. They have a lot of stout defenders, but you could also make the argument, is Chet that much worse of a shooter? And he's probably a better defender just by the position and role he plays on defense. And, if Chet Holmgren's playmaking ability we saw in high school does come back a little bit in the NBA, because the college game, one with Gonzaga and Drew Timme, it really didn't play to his playmaking strengths, but to just the spacing. If that does come into fruition, I think you have yourself a real star. So I'm probably taking Chet Holmgren. Also, he has the least overlap of any of the three players.
Yeah, I think Jabari's shooting is needed. Orlando was like towards the bottom of the league in 3-point field goal percentage. And so Jabari or Chet help bring, fill a void as far as for outside shooting. With the guys that are on the Magic roster, do you think, whether it's Jabari or Chet, do you think those guys are going to get the touches they need from their guards?
I'm not sure, and that's the issue with the Magic. It's going to be very egalitarian for all these up and coming players that haven't quite stamped themselves as the franchise player. And I don't think Jabari or Chet, to answer your question, if I had to take a side, I don't think they get the touches to become that stamped franchise player that really elevates them out of the lottery and the bottom end of the lottery, 1 through 10. I think they could maybe get themselves out of 1 through 5, but 5 through 10 is kind of where I foresee them the next year in terms of percentage odds. Obviously, the lottery made the balls bounce in any way, but I don't think that either of those two guys will get enough touches to stamp themselves as the face of the franchise and lead them to the promised land, at least immediately.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, here's a tough question for you, Richard. Who is or what is Orlando's starting lineup to begin the season? And considering everybody's healthy, Jonathan Isaac is back at 100%. What is their starting lineup?
I hate you for this question, by the way. Like, this is, I'd be shocked if I get 2 of these right. So
that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing when you don't. Not saying like for you, it's just not a good thing when you have no idea what a team's starting lineup is going to be. That means you have a lot of redundancy or no clear cut dogs.
Well, I think they're going to make trades. I think I'll preface it with, I think they make a 3-for-1, at least one of those, to clear out some of that, whether it's like Okeke, Ross, and Hampton, at least does something. It at least, the forward depth and the front court depth takes a nice little break. But I'm going to say starting at point guard is Markelle Fultz. I feel confident in that. At the shooting guard, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to guess Cole Anthony because he's been there longer and Jalen Suggs was pretty rough last year. So I'll go with him. At the 3, I have zero doubt. I think I'm pretty confident going forward in this one. Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter at the 4. He was actually very good at playing the 4. There's no issues with that this year. And then Chet Holmgren at the 5.
Interesting. So you think they go with this jumbo lineup similar to the Cavs in a sense?
Yeah, I think so. It was hard to boot Isaac, but I mean, speaking of boots, like he's probably been in a boot more than like no wordplay intended. I just kind of saw that one right in front of me. But I mean, like, what do we even know he's going to be healthy on opening night?
A+ execution there. That was excellent. I mean, he should be healthy. I mean, he hasn't played since 2020.
Well, he had a surgery. He had a surgery to end the year. So we don't know.
Yeah. Leif, who do you think their starting lineup is? Actually, you know what? Who is their closing lineup, which is more important? This is where it really gets tough.
I think I'd go with the majority are the same. I think I'm going Cole Anthony. I think they go Jalen Suggs to close because he's really good defensively. I think they go Jalen Suggs, and I'd stay the same front court that Richard went. I wouldn't be surprised if Terrence Ross gets in there though, in the backcourt, but I'll go Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs. Markelle. I think I go, yeah. Markelle Fultz. I think you gotta still trust Markelle Fultz based off what we saw early before the injury. Another guy who's just terribly injury prone, unfortunately. So it's hard to predict who's going to be there. But I think I go same front court as Richard. I feel pretty good about that. And then I'll go Fultz and Anthony.
Poor Jamal Mosley. He thought he had the Mavs job. He has the Magic job, which, I mean, there's only 30 NBA head coaching jobs in the world, but he has a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of people to try to keep happy. All right. In the next segment, we're going to talk about what team is probably the most disappointed with what happened in today's lottery.
But before we go there, let's talk about Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product that I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens AG1 because I didn't have time. I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, and I hated taking pills. I'm bad at swallowing them, and vitamins don't taste very good. I want a supplement that actually tasted great and wanted to see what the hype was about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, and your energy, your recovery, your focus, and your aging. I personally consume in the morning It's good start to my day. It tastes great. AG1 benefits my lifestyle as I've been working hard to get healthy this summer. And it helps me be at my most energetic from the earliest part of the day. And if you're curious about health facts, Athletic Greens is keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It's affordable as well. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to cover. It cost him over $100 a day. He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutrition routine on your own that was affordable. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. And all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right. Once again, this is the NBA Big Board podcast, and I have the grinder and Leif, and then we have the expert, which is AKA, he's not even Mavs draft today. He is strictly Magic draft. All right. So we spent the first segment talking about Orlando and just everything that's going on there and how we have no idea what direction they're going. But next, I want to talk about which team leaves the lottery disappointed. Like, which team had their hearts ripped out tonight? I'll go with you first, Leif.
I think there's two teams that have very clearly tried to tank their way into the promised land, and those were the Indiana Pacers and the Portland Trailblazers. They got the 6th and 7th pick respectively, and both teams have aspirations of getting back to the playoffs, which they've been accustomed of being in a short, quick turnaround. And I think being 6th is that no man's land. Who are they going to take at 6? Who are the Blazers going to take at 7 that can elevate teams that they think if they were to run it back with the roster that they have, that could contend for the playoffs immediately? And the Pacers in particular may have to rearrange their roster. Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner could be on the trading block. And I'd be curious to see what happens, assuming that Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, Jaden Ivey are gone 1 through 4. Shaedon Sharpe goes 5, and I think most people have him at 5th right now. Who's next there? I think there's a significant drop-off in high-level ceiling talent from 5 to 6. And I'm curious what those teams do and how they maximize the last years of Damian Lillard and the years of work or I guess this past year of work for the Pacers to optimize their ability to get a star.
I'm a Blazers fan. That is my team. And I didn't expect them to get into the top 4. I expected them to be in the 6 or 7 range. I do think Benedict Mathurin or AJ Griffin can come in and help. I mean, Blazers need shooting. They need some size on the wing. So I think that helps them out. My vote would be the Pistons. Everyone had them, expected to be in the top 3. They end up falling to 5, but it's not all doom and gloom because I think at 5, they may be able to get Shaedon Sharpe, who would have been at least the top 2 or 3 pick if he were in the 2023 draft. I mean, of course, that's based off projections. Richard, which team do you feel like was the most disappointed with the results?
Yeah, I mean, dude, you were with me when you found out this nugget. Like, the Pistons really wanted Chet Holmgren, so they missed out a lot by dropping. So the Pistons are definitely a prime candidate, but I'll go with someone else, another team that is picking at the same spot as they did last year at number 3, and that's the Houston Rockets. I think I don't want to say it's like some major failure, but when you're the worst record in the league for 2 straight years and all you have to show for it is 2 number 3 picks, you don't even get in the top 2. That's pretty tough. I think they wanted, last year they felt pretty hurt. They still got their guy. I think all along Jalen Green was the guy that both they wanted there and he wanted to be there. But this year, I don't know if they're going to have such luck in having somebody who's all in on the city and that they're all in on as a prospect. So Houston really needed a number 1 pick.
I think they won. I think Houston is in a good situation because they get to pick who's ever left between Banchero, Jabari, and Holmgren. And so if it ends up being Banchero, that's who I would have selected at number 1 for them. Now you have another ball handler. I mean, I think you get another, potent offensive player. You get a guy that's going to rebound and pass. So I think Houston is in a really good situation. Yeah, here's one for you. And I'm laughing because it's the Kings. What are your thoughts on the Sacramento Kings situation? They end up being fourth. And on most boards, Jaden Ivey is the fourth best player available, which, speaking of redundancy, I mean, that means they drafted a guard. Would that be 4 drafts in a row?
Yep.
So
Four
if you're
of the last 5.
for the last 5. Okay, yeah, Bagley was in
Bagley.
there. And that, how that worked out. So if you're the Kings, like, do you go with Ivy or do you gamble on Shaden Sharp?
Well, you have 100% success rate in finding good guards. Maybe you just keep drafting guards, they won't bust. But but no, if I were them, I mean, if they stay at the pick, you don't take Ivy. Look, I see it as a Magic fan. Don't keep building it. Know when you've hit the limit. I would take a swing for the fences. If there's even an argument here for Jalen Duren, I'm not there, but I think that the teams will make that argument, because look at the Kings front court right now. If you take out Sabonis, they have the worst rotation in the league, big man rotation in the league. It's rough out there for them. And I think they wanted Chet. And if they get Jalen Duren, that's a big option. But ultimately, I think they're going to trade back. It wouldn't shock me to see them ending back up in that number 7 they had originally and getting assets along the way, basically, to stay where they were.
Ooh, man. So, man, trading back. I mean, that fan base would be livid if they, I guess they would be livid if they traded back, because think if Shaden Sharp pans out, which based off the Kings' history, if they pass on him, then he will pan out. So, man, that would be tough. Leif, like, what do you do if you're Sacramento? 4th pick. I mean, do you go with the best player available, which, that's what the consensus says. You're in the, you're trying to collect talent and drafting the best player available regardless of fit, or do you break that rule here?
I think Sharp is there's a qualifier with him. It's that we just don't know. And I think in terms of best player available, he may have a higher ceiling than even Ivy. You just don't know what his floor is. And so that makes this a more interesting discussion. I would lean towards best player available if they're taking 4. I don't think they trade backwards. I think they would maybe trade out and try to get an established talent if they were to make a trade. I would go Ivy if they keep the pick. I think you're a little safer. The interesting thing about the Kings is they've had this drought of not making the playoffs. And I think I've seen some people talk about, and I wouldn't do this, I want to specify that, but I've seen people talk about Keegan Murray to the Kings here. And I think that gets you to the purgatory of the play-in game. I think he's a more win now ready player than some other players that you could take higher than him. But I think the Kings are in a need to really find their superstar. And De'Aaron Fox is a star, but he's not a superstar. And I think you go for that in Jaden Ivey, long story short.
Yeah, speaking of Keegan Murray, I mean, I've spent the last few days in the hotel where all the players and executives are staying. And Keegan Murray actually looks a lot slimmer than I thought. I thought he was a little bulkier. I don't know if he's lost weight to allow him to maybe play some 3. I don't think that's what he'll do, but I don't know if that was his game plan. But to me, he looked noticeably slimmer. Now, is there any other teams that you felt like would probably be disappointed in where the odds or where the ping pong balls bounced?
I mean, Portland is the obvious answer, but I mean, when you're a team outside of that, I think there were a couple that probably needed that. San Antonio accidentally got into the play-in game. They were probably hoping, some lottery luck in terms of bouncing up. But another one, I mean, I know, Leif, you've thought of this a lot, but the Knicks really kind of got screwed because they were in the absolute worst case of here. I don't know how on earth, just looking at their record, would not have pegged them as the best team under 500 in terms of record. They needed to be worse. They needed better draft slot. I was a little bit shocked to see them as well.
What do you think their needs are?
Kentucky point guards.
So
Kidding about Kentucky, but they do actually need a point guard, and I think there's a chance that Mitchell Robinson leaves, and who knows? I don't think Nerlens Noel and Taj Gibson are exactly the bigs of the future there. So maybe you could go with a big man, and then you could also say a front court 3-and-D guy in case Cam Reddish doesn't work out.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like the whole joke. They're going to take the Kentucky point guard, but Ty Washington is not a CAA guy. I think he's with Rep 1. So I wonder, does that change anything? All right, when we return in this last segment, we'll talk a little bit about what we talked about earlier. Which team has the toughest choice to make in this draft?
Imagine dipping your finger in that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that it was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That's what it's like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. I just received my birthday cake puffs in the mail the other day, and I've never had anything like this. They're available right now, and we can't promise that they'll be there tomorrow. So go get them today at built.com. These are limited. I don't know about you guys, but my personal favorite, these birthday cakes are up there, but my personal favorite remains the cookies and cream. I don't know if you guys have a favorite and want to share, but there's just so many options out there with Built. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order, and use promo code, again, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built. These are 150 calories, 16 grams of protein, only 9 grams of sugar. And these limited time flavors are an amazing option if you're looking for a healthy way to get flavor and variety in your day. Again, go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at Built. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning, such as is your Odyssey and LX, EX, make and model, all of that, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry, when you have access to rockauto.com in your phone and at home. With Rock Auto, you can save time and money, and why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every single customer. And they also have everything you can need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
All right, this last segment, I want to talk about which teams have the toughest choice to make. And I'll start off with the Washington Wizards. If you're Washington, what direction do you go in? If Bradley Beal stays, do you take the best player available, which could be someone like Johnny Davis, or do you just go for a point guard because that is obviously the most glaring need? Like, I don't know. I don't even know what direction the Wizards go in. I don't even know their identity at this point. I know based off of their rosters today, you have to figure Bill is their starting 2. You have to figure Porzingis is their 4, or did they play him at the 5 when he finished? Do you know if he played the 4 or the 5?
I can't remember.
So I figure, all right, Porzingis is going to start, and then Rui would start. So, I mean, I guess point guard is the most glaring need. But if you're the Wizards, and this is a question for you, Leif, if you're the Wizards, do you take Johnny Davis if he's available, or do you take someone like Dyson Daniels, or even maybe like Atari Eason?
I think I'd go need and get your general. Honestly, I would take Ty Washington as the point guard if I were to go need. I think honestly that might be the loser of the draft now that I think about it, because I don't know where I'm going with it. Tari Eason would scare me a little bit because we talked about redundancy. He's different than Rui, but they're both in a similar body type and would play a similar role. I'm personally low on Johnny Davis, and that could come back to bite me, but I don't think I would take him there. You could maybe swing for the fences and go for a guy like Blake Wesley, who's a little more dynamic than Ty Washington, but I think Ty Washington gives you the position of need, potential pick and roll savant, and I think that could be the position that gets your franchise going as a general of the team.
All right, so back on you, Leif. What team do you think has the toughest choice to make on draft night? Besides Orlando and Sacramento.
Okay, those are the first two. I would go Washington. I would go Washington. and that, I think, depending how the board falls, obviously, if someone falls down out of the people that we think is going to be above the 10th pick, I think that makes it easier for them. But out of the way the board falling, the way we projected it, at least in the Locked On Live show, I kind of think the Wizards have the toughest choice.
What about you, Richard? Which team outside of the teams that we talked about has the toughest choice on draft night?
Well, first of all, let me address something that's been said. If you're Washington, you do not take a general. Think about the the precedent in that sense. You're a Washington taking a general. That is destiny to be a failure. So I would actually say, I've never really understood there's always a disconnect, right? There's always somebody who are like, wait, this guy went in the lottery, and it's probably somebody that you could have had 7-5 picks later. And this year it's going to be Charlotte. They're going to take one of the big men that is going to be an absolute reach. And for me, I can't figure out which of the main three is the best. Mark Williams, Christian Koloko, and Ismail Kamagaze. I know, like, Rafael, you and I had a lengthy discussion about my opinions on Mark Williams and some of the centers, but I really do think it is tighter than it's given credit for. I mean, you've seen Kamagaze. I don't need to sell you on him, but he's pretty versatile. For those who don't know, he is versatile. He's mobile, potential to shoot. I mean, he shoots some mid-range, right, Rafael?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him do it in a workout. Didn't really get a chance to do it in games because, in Europe, they're not wanting you to develop your skill set in games. Everything is about winning. And what's interesting about Kamagaze is he was supposed to come to the draft, but he's not at the combine because his team lost the game last week and they need to win their next game to stay in the league. So that just shows you how important it is for winning, that they're not going to let you, work on your jump shot during the game, or show that you can't shoot jump shots if they have you in this box as a role guy. But yes, I think Mark Williams, I think it's the Duke connection, not saying, Jordan's a North Carolina guy, obviously, but I think he kind of is like he'll be a fan favorite in a sense because of his connections to the area. And I just thought he just put himself in the best position during the NCAA tournament with his defense and his rebounding and all of that. But like we said earlier, I don't know if it was earlier on this show or maybe it was the draft show that we talked. I'm getting them all mixed up. It seems like we've been talking about the same thing for the last hour. But Mark Williams helps them probably make the playoffs next year, but can he play minutes in the playoffs? And that's something that, that's a whole subject that we can talk about as far as like drafting bigs. All right, so this last question is for you, Richard. The Mavericks. Who should the Mavericks take? Or name some guys in their range that in the range where they'll be drafting that you think is a good fit.
Well, I just said two of them, Christian Koloko, Ismail Kamagaze. I mean, we're seeing the lack of a big man. It really hurt in games 1 and 2 against Phoenix. However, with the big men in the league that are left actually in the playoffs, it's pretty weak, especially in the West. I mean, the starting centers are going to be Dwight Powell versus Kevon Looney. So you may not actually need to go that route. So they could be able to go with wing or even a guard if they're kind of feeling bold. But a couple other guys that are in the mix for me, I mean, I'm looking at Wendell Moore. I think he fits that low usage, being able to do a lot next to Luka Doncic. And then if I don't know what to do with some of the other guys because there's a lot of swings for the fences here. But Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, good size, really good skill set, ambidextrous kind of player. Jake Laravia, if they want to add a front court player wing, I know he's someone you've gotten to see work out. And then just one more who you'll love this pick. You'll love the growth from me. Maybe my guy Terquavion Smith, or your guy, Terquavion Smith. I like him a lot as a guard if they're trying to go high up.
Yeah, he would be interesting. I mean, I think, man, it's like, do you draft a guard? Because the draft is before free agency. You don't know what happens with Brunson. I think he should stay. But, man, it's hard to, like, not pay attention to the connections. I did a little research. One of Tibbs' favorite players when he was an assistant coach with the Knicks was Rick Brunson. And if I'm not mistaken, Rick Brunson is represented by CAA, which represents Tibbs, which, was ran by Leon Rose, who is now in charge of the Knicks. I think they're going to make a huge run for Jalen Brunson. We all saw the game at the beginning of the playoffs where the Knicks like front office was at the Mavs Jazz game. And, you know, technically they were saying they were there to watch Donovan Mitchell, but you know, I think the Brunson to New York rumors are legit. So with that being said, do the Mavs draft an insurance policy? Like, do you draft a Jaden Hardy or Turquavian, and knowing that there's no room, there's not going to be any opportunities for them to play if Brunson comes back? And is Hardaway Jr. a free agent this year?
No, he just signed a big 4-year deal.
That's right.
But I think he might get salary dumped.
Man, he's this year's Caron Butler, 2011 version of Caron Butler. Leif, did the Jazz have a pick this year?
No, they don't.
All right,
but for the Mavs, like I got a few guys seeing the Mavs firsthand recently, and obviously watching on TV. But what about Patrick Baldwin Jr. catching shooting from Luka? Jaden Hardy, you just mentioned, that was my other guy. I don't know if he falls that far. And then I think it would be interesting if they were to take a guy that is a little more defensively oriented, because they're obviously Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock are the story of their success. Like, obviously Luka's the engine, but Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, if they get another guy who kind of fits that mold and it replenishes it along with Josh Green for the next generation, because Luka's only 23, I think that could be something that could be prudent for the Mavs. I
would go with Gabriel Procida over Patrick Baldwin Jr. I think he just has a defined role. He's athletic. And I'm just not big on Patrick Baldwin Jr. Well, thank you guys for back-to-back episodes. And I mean, this is one of our biggest days of the year. And shout out to each and every person that has tuned in to this episode and made it your first listen of every day. Now for your second listen, make the Locked On NBA podcast. I mean, your second listen. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, the Locked On expert take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. I am Rafael Barlowe, joined by Richard Stayman, aka Magic Draft Today, and Leif Thulin, and we are out.